In December 2023, the most ambitious transparency measure in the history of this issue was quietly taken apart. The Schumer-Rounds UAP Disclosure Act had cleared the Senate as part of the annual defense bill. By the time the FY 2024 NDAA was signed on December 22nd, the Independent Review Board was gone. So was the eminent domain clause covering recovered technologies of unknown origin. What survived was a records collection at the National Archives with no referee, no one empowered to say release it over an agency's objection. Now that missing referee is reportedly back, attached to the FY 2027 defense bill, and this time aimed at contractors. The 2023 original ran roughly 64 pages. It borrowed its architecture wholesale from the President John F. Kennedy Assassination Records Collection Act of 1992. It created a 9-member, presidentially appointed review board. It established a presumption of immediate disclosure, and critically, it asserted federal eminent domain over any recovered material of unknown origin held by private parties. That last clause is generally understood to be what killed it. House Armed Services leadership, including Chairman Mike Rogers and Representative Mike Turner, opposed the provision. Schumer said afterward that the bill had been watered down. Rounds reintroduced a version for FY 2025. It never received a vote. The measure now moving is attributed to Representative Eric Burlison, Republican of Missouri's 7th District, a member of the House Oversight Committee and of Anna Paulina Luna's task force on declassification of federal secrets. Burlison is not new to this. He questioned Luis Elizondo, Michael Schellenberger, and retired Rear Admiral Tim Gallaudet at the November 13, 2024 oversight hearing and returned for the task force's September 2025 session. He has argued publicly that legacy programs may sit outside normal congressional oversight, that the problem isn't only classification, it's custody. In early 2025, he introduced a UAP Transparency Act requiring proactive release. It stalled. The NDAA route is the workaround. Reported text tracks the 1992 template closely. 3 mechanisms matter. First, inventory. Every executive agency must identify and catalog records in its possession relating to unidentified anomalous phenomena, with language explicitly reaching material retrieval and reverse engineering efforts. Agencies cannot self-certify that nothing exists. They must produce a list. Second, custody. Those records transfer into a permanent, unidentified anomalous phenomena records collection at the National Archives with a presumption of public disclosure and a hard ceiling on postponement. Third, and this is the whole ballgame, an independent board with authority to hold hearings, administer oaths, and subpoena witnesses and documents, including from private entities. The Assassination Records Review Board is the only working precedent for this in American law. 5 members, Senate confirmed, operating from 1994 to 1998. It reviewed classified material and voted on release. Agencies could appeal, but only to the president, in writing, on the public record. Roughly 5 million pages entered the collection. The design detail worth noting. The burden flipped. The agency had to justify secrecy, item by item, rather than the requester justifying access. That structural inversion is what disclosure advocates have wanted for a decade, and it is what the 2023 Conference Committee removed. Here is the consequential part. An agency subpoena is unremarkable. A subpoena to a defense contractor's private archive is not. Since the 2023 fight, testimony has repeatedly pointed to the same structure, that if legacy material exists, it may sit under corporate custody, shielded by proprietary data rights and contract terms rather than by classification alone. The JFK board faced a version of this and won. In April 1997, it designated the original Zapruder film an assassination record and took it into federal custody. The family litigated. An arbitration panel awarded them $16 million in 1999. Private ownership was not a defense. Which brings us to a document that has hovered over this legislation since 2019. 15 pages of notes surfaced from the estate of Apollo astronaut Edgar Mitchell, purporting to memorialize an October 2002 conversation between physicist Eric Davis and Vice Admiral Thomas Wilson, former director of the Defense Intelligence Agency. In them, Wilson allegedly describes attempting in 1997 to access a special access program involving recovered craft, and being refused by contractor gatekeepers who told him he lacked a need to know. Wilson has publicly denied the meeting occurred. Davis has never fully authenticated the notes. Treat them as unverified, but note what they allege: not a hidden vault, a jurisdictional gap. Skeptics call retrieval programs unfalsifiable, but two are documented in declassified Air Force paperwork. An Air Force intelligence letter, dated November 3, 1961, describes Project Moondust, collection of objects of unknown origin, and Operation Blue Fly, established to facilitate expeditious delivery of such items to the Foreign Technology Division at Wright-Patterson. These were released through FOIA litigation beginning in the late 1970s. The Air Force later said the nicknames were compromised and retired. Then the cautionary note. A GAO report in July 1995 found that outgoing Roswell Army Airfield administrative records from 1945 to 1949 had been destroyed without authorization and with no record of who ordered it.